Well, as ballots were cast and polls began to close in the U.S., stock markets worldwide took a wobble with news of the unexpected results. Futures on the Dow Jones were slightly up at first, but as a Donald Trump victory edged closer, they plunged over 700 points in a matter of hours. The U.S. dollar index, Brent crude oil and the Mexican peso also suffered setbacks. However, those markets have since reversed by some distance as well, those losses. And if there's one man who knows how to make sense of it all, it's RT's finance guru, Mr. Max Keiser, and he joins me live now. Max, hi there. Quite a night. The reaction to it, though, why such a knee-jerk reaction from the markets initially?
Well, markets are primed to knee-jerk react to any kind of news. The volatility is very high because markets are trading at historic highs, and any kind of news will move them dramatically one way or another. But the initial sell-off is understandable because we were told that a Trump presidency would be catastrophic. But as saner minds came into the market and took a look at things, they realized that what we're going to see going forward is a lot of money pouring into infrastructure stocks. We're going to see a lot of money pouring into areas of the economy that have been ignored for a while, and that there's a lot of beneficiaries to this, potentially Trump economic policies. And, of course, there will be a lot less regulations, which are very positive for stocks. So I think the big theme going forward is going to be inflation versus deflation. We're going to be exiting a deflationary period. We're going to be entering an inflationary period. So stocks will probably do pretty well in this environment, but bonds, however, would not do as, I think are a sell.
Okay, Trump's been called an anti-establishment candidate, but he is, of course, a billionaire businessman. He's a tycoon. What will his relationship with Wall Street and the financial establishment be, do you think?
Well, he is, perhaps he's anti-establishment, but more importantly, he's anti-war, which I think captured the imagination of his support. A lot of people are war-wary, and they thought Clinton represented more war, and Trump was talking something else, and I think that drove a lot of his popularity. As far as Wall Street goes, he's talked about people like Carl Icahn coming in and helping to redo some of the regulations and maybe a repeal of some of the recent regulations on Wall Street, again, to make it easier for banks to do kind of the stuff they have been doing. But they're going to be looking into the headwind of rising interest rates. That's what we're talking about in terms of inflation, and that's going to be difficult to overcome going forward. So that's going to be, economically speaking, his biggest challenge. Rates are going to go up one way or another. Either the bond market will force a rate rise, or the Federal Reserve and other central banks start to raise rates. But that's going to be his biggest challenge. The 30-year bull market in bonds that go back to the early days of the Reagan administration, I think, is over. So it's going to that's going to be the challenge.
As a complete political newcomer, he's a freshman to day-to-day politics, isn't he? Is he going to be able to do much, or will the machine of government grind him down, do you think?
Well, I'm very happy to see this Trump presidency, because it'll be an acid test for the U.S. Constitution, which was designed by the founders so that anybody could walk in off the street and be president of the United States. You just follow the directions. It's government by and for the people. You go through, you follow the instructions, and any civil servant can come in from the farm, or, be the president for 8 years and go back to the farm. That's the way it's designed. So this will be a fantastic test to see whether the Constitution actually works, whether you can take a successful guy, reasonably intelligent guy with good intentions. He wants to take time off from the private sector, be president for 4 or 8 years, and go back to the private sector. It should work. That's the way it's designed. Let's see if it works. Hillary Clinton was just going to be a continuation of a dictatorial interpretation of the presidency, where presidents were signing off on executive orders and bypassing the Constitution, and that's completely anathema to what we as Americans would expect our president to do.
I think it's safe to say an interesting few weeks and months ahead. That is Max Keiser, host of RT's Keiser Report. Thanks a lot.